Hi, this is Brian Oliva at Getsemani Music. Today we're going to take a not-so-deep dive into the Moog One synthesizer. The Moog One is truly an amazing synthesizer, possibly too amazing. And as more and more are being delivered, more and more people are showing their first impressions as they take them out of the box and plug them in. A common theme is how overwhelming the Moog One can be at first glance. But it doesn't need to be that way, and we're going to try to fix that today. We're going to take a very simple left-to-right look at the controls and try to give you the top 10 things you should know about the Moog One before you even crack the manual. This should make your journey much less frustrating and help you on your way to learning the Moog One in greater detail. So today we're going to look at changing the keyboard octave range, how to do a MIDI panic stop, the location of the hold button, which turned out to be quite a mystery for several people, how to do mono, poly, and unison control, how to select the various synths, how to turn those synths on and off, how to split the keyboard, the mysterious delete key, getting sound out of the whole thing to begin with, and the more buttons. Changing octaves on a Moog One can be done in two different places. Like most synthesizers, it can be done in the oscillator controls, where each oscillator can be adjusted individually. But because of its wide range, there's another location as well. In the lower left-hand corner, there's another octave control where you can adjust the entire keyboard up or down by 2 octaves. Another function of this octave control comes into play if you have a stuck MIDI note. If you press and hold both octave up and octave down buttons simultaneously, it sends a MIDI panic message, which shuts off all notes and controllers. The hold button on the Moog One is located in the lower right-hand corner of the left side controls. There was a recent video posted that showed someone trying to use the arpeggiator, and they were looking for the hold button so they wouldn't have to continue to hold down the keys. It was literally right within their fingertips. Its location is very close to the keyboard so that you could actually reach it while playing a chord if necessary. Just to the right of the hold button are the polyphony controls. That's where the mono and unison buttons are located. While the Moog One is polyphonic, sometimes you just want to go back to an old school mono synth. The mono button is what does that. Next to that is the unison button. Caution should be used since that if everything is turned on, you have the potential of putting 48 different oscillators in unison, you may notice that the levels may significantly increase, so be warned. The next thing we'll start looking at is working with the synths. By pressing a panel focus button for synth 1, 2, or 3, that will select the synth. To actually turn it on, you would press the on button in the keyboard control section right next to it. Note that the line for that synth in the display up above turns red when it's turned on for keyboard control. You don't always want to have the keyboard control turned on. For instance, if you're using synth 2 for a sequence, you can leave it turned off. The sequencer will still run it, and you won't affect the sequencer by playing the keyboard. If you press more than one button, that'll allow you to make changes to multiple synths simultaneously. The last button you push will stay lit just a little bit brighter than the rest, and that's the synth that will be displayed in all the panel lights and displays. Also take note of the gray box in the center of the display. That represents the 5 octaves that the keyboard can actually play. If you were to use the octave button we talked about previously to shift the octaves up and down, that gray box would shift left or right to show which 5 octaves the keyboard was active on. The other 2 buttons in the keyboard control section are labeled range, low, and high. Those are the buttons used to set the keyboard range for each synth. In effect, you can layer or totally separate the 3 synths so that various sections of the keyboard only play certain sounds. You start by selecting which synth you want to set the range for. If you want to set the low or high range, press the appropriate button. Here we're going to set the high range for synth 1. Now we switch to synth 2, and we'll set the low range a half note higher. And then the high range for synth 2 a little higher than that. Notice the red bars in the display up top. It shows you the current range for the specific synths in the keyboard display. We've now switched to synth 3 and set the low range for that. So now the keyboard is in effect split into 3 pieces. Synth 1 plays the low notes at the bottom of the keyboard. Synth 2 plays a different timbre in the center of the keyboard. And synth 3 plays yet a different timbre in the upper part of the keyboard. Next up is the delete button, which is located just to the left of the master encoder, which is more commonly known as the big knob in the middle. This button is used to delete pretty much anything out of the library. It can be used to remove modulation, routing, rows, eliminate sequence data, and more. Basically, pretty much anything you have highlighted, whether it's a timbre or an entire patch, just highlight it and hit the delete button and confirm it, and it will disappear. It's a pretty simple button, but most people forget it's there. So if you're trying to get rid of something or clean house a little bit, just try highlighting it and hitting the delete button, and chances are it'll go away. The next thing we're going to look at is getting sound out of the synth. The Moog One is set up a little different than other synths. Instead of having an on and off switch to control each oscillator or noise source or other sound source, the Moog One is set up with the buttons that direct the sound through the various filters. So each oscillator, the ring modulator, and the noise generator each have a button to route it either through the state variable filter or through the ladder filter. Unless one of those buttons is pushed, the sound isn't going to go out anywhere. This is set up this way so that you can route it through either or both of the filters. which can then also be set up to run either in parallel or series, giving you unlimited options. The last thing we're going to look at is the mysterious triangular buttons that appear in most of the modules on the control surface. These are the mysterious More buttons. Nearly every module is equipped with a triangular More button located in its upper right-hand corner. When a More button is pressed, the center console display screen reveals additional parameters specific to that module. These additional parameters are accessed and controlled using the center console knobs and buttons. This is the window into the details of every module in there, and it'll be one of the most useful things available to you on a Moog One. As we scroll through these, you can see all the different parameters that are available. In some cases you get visual aids to see how things are moving, such as the filters, and you can see how other things are set. Virtually all the detail information for each module can be accessed through this, including many features you won't find anywhere else. Note that if you use external sources, the selection of where that source input comes from and where it's routed to is controlled by the More button for the mixer. That concludes our short, not so in-depth tour of the Moog One. Hopefully you found this interesting and useful. If you did, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. In the meantime, thank you for watching.